Hello, my name is Laura, and this is the 13th episode of my knitting podcast. And today I have two big finished objects. I have 3 works in progress and no acquisitions, but I've got like the very start of another project, so I might just want to talk about like a couple future knitting plans at the end. But yeah, this is probably going to be my little Valentine's Day episode because I would say both of my finished objects could lean very pinky, cutesy February kind of vibe. And so I don't know, I'm feeling the February pink, reds, all that good stuff. So as you can probably tell, my first finished object is what I'm wearing, and this is my Northern Augustins number 4 by Anne-Sophie Velling. And the first thing that I want to get into is the yarn, and I'll talk about how much this sweater cost me, and then I'll get into the sweater itself, which I have a little bit to say about that. So, but talking about the yarn first, the main strand that I held for this sweater is Gepard Woolia in the color 101, which is cream. And then I held that together with a strand of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, and this is in the color limestone. So the whole reason that I started this sweater is because I was like kind of in a Christmassy mood, and I already had the Woolia in my stash because I had bought it for a different cardigan that I ended up not loving the color match for. Like, I don't think the cream was exactly what I was going for with that cardigan. And so I had a bunch of this yarn sitting in my stash, and all I had to buy was the Knitting for Olive because this red is also left over from a different cardigan that I knit last year. So I cast this on, and the cream color was still not exactly what I wanted. So I bought limestone in the Knitting for Olive mohair, and the limestone is a very, very gray white. Here's what they look like together. And I was kind of hoping that the limestone would balance out with the cream, would like cancel out some of the yellowy in the cream, but I don't think it really did. Like, I still think this sweater leans very cream, which is fine. That was another reason I was okay with making an entire garment in this cream color, even though I wasn't super in love with it. And that's because this is a very special occasion sweater, right? Like, I'm probably realistically only gonna wear this for Christmas and then Valentine's Day, and then maybe if I'm feeling like I've got a really special thing going on. I actually did wear this to, I went to see a musical. I went to see Chicago the Musical a couple of weeks ago, and I did wear this, and I thought it was a great fit for that. So it's more of like a special occasion sweater, and I'm okay if it doesn't like look the best on me. But anyway, if you were curious, a worsted weight yarn and a silk mohair don't really cancel out. They blend nicely, but it still definitely leans towards the worsted weight yarn color. But anyway, so that was the main yarn that I held for this sweater. And then my contrast yarn, my contrast color was left over from my cardigan number 9 from last year, which is blue Sky Fibers Woolstok Worsted. And then I held that with a strand of Isager Silk Mohair, and it was like their red color, I think like color 32. And then the blue Sky Fibers is the color redrock. So, not including the contrast color in the price of the sweater because I'm pretty sure I already included both of these in the cardigan number 9 cost, so that's already used up. The red color in this sweater was free. So what I ended up paying for this sweater is I used 8 balls of the Woolia for this, and those were like a little over $7.50 each, and then I used 4 of the Knitting for Olive, which were $9 each. And so this sweater that I will probably only wear 3 times a year came out to be a total of $97 and some change. And that's fine. I mean, honestly, the fabric is incredible. Like, I have no complaints. I'm wearing just a tank top under this right now. It's actually a dark colored tank top. I hope you can't see too much through it. But it is so soft next to skin, and it's very cozy. I knit this on 6mm needles, which is what the pattern recommends, and so it's very drapey, very open and loose. I almost would have preferred going down a needle size to like a 5.5, so it's like a little thicker, but it's fine. So I knit this on 6mm needles. And yeah, kind of expensive, but honestly, the individual yarns that I used in this are all really nice and like really high quality. So that is that. And honestly, not much else to say on the yarn. I really love it. It was a great combination, and I don't know that I would knit with the Woolia again. I am knitting with the Woolia in something else, spoiler alert, and I'm not like super in love with that process because it is so stretchy, but holding it with a mohair like helped with that stretchy factor, and it was a little more pleasant of a knitting experience. So I don't know, if you've knit with the Woolia, like, did you like that? Like, do you guys really enjoy like springier yarns, or do you like kind of stiffer wools? I'm kind of leaning towards like the stiffer wool, like with a little bit of stretch, but not as much as the Woolia. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but it is just like insanely stretchy. Like, it's got a lot of give to it. I don't know if you're able to see that, but it's very stretchy. So that's pretty much it on the yarn. It's nice. Okay, for the fit of the sweater and the construction of the sweater itself. If you are familiar with this sweater, you can probably tell that I omitted the first part of the colorwork chart. And so the first part of the chart has like these little, I don't know, I guess you would call them scallops that kind of loop around the top part of the yoke here. And I decided to omit those so that this could be a little more wearable. Don't know if that really accomplished it, but I personally love just the bows. Like, I think this was a really good choice for me. I really love that. That also allowed me to put in a few short rows at the back of the neck, like above the color work. I only did like 2 or 3 because this is my first circular yoke sweater, and so I didn't know how to do increases in short rows at the same time in a circular yoke. So I just did a couple at the back of the neck and was too afraid to try more than that. But then I also did a few short rows behind the colorwork, like on the back, before I split for sleeves. The pattern has no short rows written into it, and I knew that I would want somehow to raise the back of the neck. So anyway, those are like the main modifications that I made to this. Otherwise, I knit this to pattern. And that being said, this is a very oversized sweater. Like, I will definitely insert some B-roll of me wearing it, but this is huge. I probably could have been able to tell this from the photos and from like other people's Ravelry pages, but I just didn't pay that much attention because I was like, oh, it's a Christmassy sweater. Like, I'm so excited. I'm just going to cast it on. And I was even like trying it on before I split for sleeves, and I thought it was going to be fine, but it's really big. So just for like some reference here, this is how deep the yoke looks. My armpit is all the way up here. Like, if I could like bend in my arm that much, like my armpit is here, and I've got this much, like I think this is like 7 inches or something of extra yoke depth as far as like an oversized fit goes. And for me, I don't think that I love the look of an oversized circular yoke. I think it's just a bit too much. And like, this is already like a out there pattern. And so then like the oversized aspect of it also makes it even less wearable for me. So that being said, I blocked it and it didn't grow at all. I was I was trying really hard to not let it grow in blocking. And so it was pretty true to size, but blocking did help. Like, it relaxed the stitches a good bit. And so like for a little bit, I thought I was fine with the oversized look, but I wore this yesterday for Valentine's Day. And then I wore it to the musical that I saw a couple weeks ago. And I think my like final opinion on it is that it's just too big. And so what I think I'm going to do is leave it alone for now because I've got other projects that I'm really excited about. But come Christmas time again, I'm like 90% certain at this point that I'm going to rip back to just below the color work, and I'm going to reknit the sleeves and the body. And the difference that, like, the things that I'm going to change the next go round is I'm going to cast on fewer stitches at the underarm, for one. There are so many stitches. Like, when I read that number, like, it was for like a DK weight sweater, I would have been like, oh, that's a lot. But for like an Aran weight sweater, that's a lot to cast it on the underarm. And so I was thinking like, okay, maybe it's just like a circular yoke type thing. You know, I've never knit one of these before. But no, it's just a lot. So let me see. I don't know if you'd be able to see it, but I don't know how clear that's coming up. But like the entire underarm is, I don't know, it's so many stitches. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to basically rip back to under the color work, split for sleeves immediately, cast on fewer stitches with the underarm, probably half as many, and then maybe give some of the sleeve stitches to the body, because I don't mind, let me set up a little bit, like I don't mind how big the body is. I think that's super cute, but the sleeves are gigantic. Like there's my arm. The sleeves are gigantic, so I might give some of the sleeve stitches to the body and cast on fewer at the underarms. So that would, in theory, give me a slightly more fitted, and for me, slightly more wearable Northern Augustins number 4. So I'm gonna leave it alone for now. I might even try to wear it a couple more times and see if I change my mind. But as of right now, I am pretty convinced that I'm gonna reknit this and try to make it a little smaller. I knit the second size in the pattern, which was the size recommended for me. And honestly, like I do love how like the width of the yoke, like I feel like that's a really comfortable fit, but the depth, I knit to pattern, like I knit the depth of this to pattern, just a little too much for me. So probably later on, you'll see this again when I reknit it, but I don't think that's gonna be for a while. So that was a lot to say about this sweater. I really do like it. I think the pattern was fine. Like I'm used to a knitting for Olive, PetiteKnit type pattern that holds your hand. You know, like she really walks you through every single step of the way. And this pattern, like I did the collar and then right here it just said increase until you have this many number of stitches. And I'm like, well, no, it said increase evenly until you have this many number of stitches. And I'm like, okay, so like what's that increase rate? Like how many stitches, like when do I need to place my increases? And also I had to then do the math myself, and there was no way to increase evenly across all these stitches to get to that next count. So it was just like, it did not hold your hand at all. It's a very, I would say, traditional pattern. If I don't know that I've ever knit one like that, but didn't hold your hand. So that's fine. If you're like a beginner knitter, I don't know that I would necessarily go for this as your first colorwork sweater, but if you feel confident and really hold on to YouTube tutorials to help you through it, then it's probably doable. But you know, don't expect a lot of detail in this pattern, but otherwise it was fine. All right, and now for my second and final finished object. This is one that I cast on, let me see, back in October. And so I've been knitting on this guy for a while. I actually finished this like a month ago at this point, and I just haven't shown it on the podcast. But this is my Solene Cardigan by Moreca Knit, and it looks, you know, floppy, not on me right now, but I will try this on in just a second for you so you can see it. Quick tangent. Okay, so I said, like I had a little comment about like how the name is pronounced in my last podcast. I think Solene is just like what I envisioned of how this would be pronounced, but I think it could also be Solene. And this might be a little too artsy fartsy, but I was watching a video this morning on like this woman just doing art, and she was talking about how she doesn't like reading about what art is supposed to mean. Like she just wants to like have her own interpretation of it. And it really reminded me of this cardigan and like how the name is pronounced. And so it's just like, I don't know, I kind of was so excited to knit this, and I had such a clear vision in my mind that I almost like took ownership of it and like impressed my own pronunciation of the name, my own interpretation of it. And honestly, like I agree with her. Like that's how I enjoy art. Like I enjoy giving it my own meaning, making it personal, you know? So yeah, I personally think it's fine to like mispronounce things or like change things because you're making it your own. Obviously still giving credit to the original designer and the original artist. But like, I was thinking like if I ever made a knitting pattern, I wouldn't mind. Like I would actually love if people like interpret it as their own and like put their own spin on it, because then that means like people are really invested in it, you know, like they enjoy it so much that it's like become personal. So I don't know if that's too much of a tangent of me just trying to justify that I'm probably saying this name wrong, but I don't know, that's how I see art, and I do see knitting patterns as art. And so yeah, this is one that I really took ownership of because I love it. It is so gorgeous and honestly just a fantastic pattern. So the first thing I will do though is put this on so you can see a little bit what it looks like, and I'll also insert some B-roll of me wearing this. Okay, this is my Solene cardigan, and like I said, I'm gonna insert a bunch of B-roll, but this is kind of like what it looks like on. It's a little more of a, scoot back a little bit, it's a little more of a loose, oversized look than I think I was going for. I probably could have gone down a size, but I still love it. I don't know, I think it's really, really sweet, a nice throw on. And one thing I'll say before I scoot back up, I finished this cardigan and tried it on and showed it to my husband, and the first thing he said was that the ties look like worms. No, they don't. Like this is adorable to me. So anyway, I don't think he can be trusted with giving opinions on knitwear, because if it's not exactly how I feel, then it's wrong. I'm so kidding. But I did think that was funny. I don't think they look like worms. I think the ties are super cute and probably my favorite part of the cardigan, which is probably why a lot of people knit this one. But anyway, the yarn that I knit this with. Okay, so the original cardigan calls for a very expensive yarn combination. Is it one yarn? I don't know. It would have cost so much money. I looked it up. I was really tempted, but I did not do that. So I went for the opposite end of the spectrum and went for a very affordable yarn, and this is Drops Air in the color 29, which I believe is mauve. And this was my first time working with, I think, any drops yarn, and I had like a decent experience. I think one of the balls had like 6 knots in it. I don't know, like all of the other ones were perfectly fine, not a single knot, but then one of them had just an egregious number of knots in it. So I don't know what that was about. Maybe it was just a fluke. But overall, I had a fine time knitting with this. I think personally, blown yarns are not my best knitting experience. I knit with wooden needles most of the time. I did end up knitting this entire cardigan with metal needles because of it. But I just found like the yarn kept catching on my needles, which is fine. I just had to switch to a different style for that. But yeah, anyway, so Drops Air was honestly super nice. It is super soft, touching my skin. I love it. And yeah, I would say the only other thing about this yarn is I knit the entire body flat, which was good, on, what did I do, 5mm needles. But then for the sleeves, I ended up knitting an entire sleeve and then like ripping it back because you could tell where I'd knit my short rows flat. It looked really good, but then when I switched to circular knitting, my gauge got a lot tighter, which has never happened to me before, so that was a new thing. And so I did have to go back and knit both of the sleeves with 5.5mm needles. And honestly, like comparing the sleeves to the body, it feels like a little too loose now. So like I needed something between a 5 and a 5.5. I don't know if they make that, but it's fine. Only I notice it, and it's okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it on the yarn. Let me tell you how much I spent on this before I get into the rest of it. So I bought 9 balls of the Drops Air, and I'm just gonna go ahead and include the one that I didn't use in my cost because it was so cheap. But overall for the 9 balls, even though I only used 8, I spent $58.88 on this, which I think that was shipping too. I think I had to pay for shipping, or maybe not. Anyway, so about $60 for this cardigan, which is a lot better than like the $200 that it would have cost me if I used the yarn recommended in the pattern. So I'm okay with that. I think it's really, really nice. And it's dainty enough that I don't think it's gonna get a lot of like really hard use. So I'm not super worried about the Drops Air pilling. It probably will, but I don't think I'm gonna like wear this every single day to where like the pilling is gonna be a lot. Do I see any so far? Yeah, no pilling so far. Well, there's one little thing, but I've only worn this a couple times, so nothing crazy on that. Okay, getting into the pattern. Like I said, it's been about a month since I finished this, so I don't remember everything about the pattern, but it's a drop shoulder construction kind of, and so you start with the back shoulder, but you only cast on one shoulder at a time. you knit the shoulder and then leave those stitches on hold, then you go to the other shoulder, and that's how it creates like kind of a drape in the back. So you do like these back portions of this at like individual times, and then you combine them, knit the back panel, and then pick up stitches for the front, knit the front panels and join the body flat, pick up stitches for the sleeves, all that good stuff. Otherwise, it's like a drop shoulder construction. So yeah, I might have mentioned this in my last podcast episode, but I really liked how with this shoulder, she specifically said to pick up stitches in your cast on stitches, because like PetiteKnit usually does like an offset, like to pick up in between so that it looks continuous. But this, she specifically said to pick up in the stitches, and I think that that created a slightly stronger edge at the top here. And that could just be the way I knit, like I could just be a really tight like cast on knitter. But yeah, I really like that. So I feel like it gives the cardigan a little more structural integrity, and I really liked that. And then as far as the rest of the pattern goes, this had such lovely attention to detail. Like she really, oh, did I forget to say who this is? This is Moreca Knit who designed this. And the cardigan just has so much attention to detail, like even casting on just like one back shoulder at a time to shape that a little bit. And then like the shaping everywhere, like there's like, this is not what it appears to be. Like there's a bunch of shaping that goes on around the arm openings, and it's really, really nice. Like I am definitely going to knit more of her patterns because they're just so well thought out, and I really appreciate that. And yeah, other than that, I feel like there's not much to say about the cardigan other than the fact that it's just awesome. Like I definitely think I achieved the vibe of an off-duty ballerina with this one, and I love it. I feel like very girly and very dainty when I wear this, and that's what I was going for. So yeah, definitely very like February vibes. It's so dreary today. It was just pouring so much outside. So sometimes you need like a little dopamine boost or something that just brings you a lot of joy on these rainy February days. So that is it for me, and I really love it. So yeah, I think that is everything that I have to say about this. So yeah. Okay, now getting into works in progress. I accidentally started more things than I meant to. I started this year with the intention of wanting to just knit like one main thing at a time, and then maybe have like a small accessory going on the side. And that's how I started, right? Like I finished this in my Northern Augustins number 4, and then I cast on my next big project, and then I cast on another thing, and then I cast on one more thing. So I'm like automatically breaking my rule, but it's fine. So my first work in progress is the one that is getting the most attention, and this is a Lulu Slipover Chunky Edition by PetiteKnit. And this is just the most stunning brown I have ever seen. Okay, so couple of reasons. Whew, the camera got a little washed out there. Let her balance out. Okay, I think the camera's fine now. But a couple of reasons why I cast this on. The first of which is, I might have mentioned I am outside a lot now for work, and I was reminded at how cold it is in the winter, which is so silly. But when you work in an office most of the time, like you don't really go outside except to like get in your car. And so I realized that I don't have like a turtlenecky hand knitted thing. And so that's what I wanted this to be. I wasn't quite ready to do a full long sleeve turtleneck something. And so I thought this slipover would be absolutely perfect for that. And so far it has been. I am really excited to finish this. I'm working on the collar right now. And then the bottom of this has double knit button bands. It's like 2 panels. Like it's 2 separate panels, and then there's going to be buttons on the side that connect them. And I did 1 double knit button band, and then I still have 3 more to go. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to use, I don't know where they are right now, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to use the same toggle buttons that I used in my cardigan number 9, because it's like 2 on either side, and it's a brown color, so I think that'll match really, really well with these. Plus I have like 50 of those, so I'm really excited to have a reason to use them. But that is essentially why I cast this on, is I really wanted something like warm and chunky like on my neck while I'm outside at work, but also not too bulky on the sleeves so that I can layer on top of it, you know? And then another reason why I cast this on is because I really, really wanted to use more of the blue Sky Fibers Woolstok Worsted. So that is the main yarn that I use for my cardigan number 9, main contrast color for my Augustins number 4. And it is so soft. This is 100% fine Highland wool, and it's a worsted weight yarn. And I just really wanted like an entire garment in just this. And so that's what I did. I bought this and I love it. So the Woolstok Worsted comes in 150 gram skeins as well as 50 gram skeins. And so what I did is I bought 2 150 gram skeins for a total of 300 grams. And then I bought an extra 50 gram skein just in case I needed it. But I don't think I'm gonna need this. Like, I bought the correct amount of yardage that the pattern calls for, but I was able to knit the entire back panel with this 150 gram skein, the entire front panel with this 150 gram skein, and then this is like probably like 70, I haven't weighed this, but probably 70 grams left, and all I have to do is like 2 more inches on the collar and then the double knitting. So I think I'm gonna have an entire 50 gram skein of this left over. So yeah, I think that's fine. I could have gone down a needle size. I did use all of the recommended needle sizes in the pattern, which is the main body is 5mm needles. I think this pattern would have been fine on 4.5mm needles. Let's see, what does it recommend? It recommends 4 to 8mm needles for the yarn, and I knit it on 5, and the fabric is very drapey. It's not open, but it's drapey enough that I think it's really nice. I probably could have gone down to a 4.5 if I wanted like a slightly denser fabric. But it's nice for what it is, because it's not supposed to be, like, the warmth is not really in the body. The warmth is all in the collar, which is knit on 4mm needles. I think this is going to be super chunky and super nice. So that is my Lulu Slipover. I am absolutely loving it. I hope I can finish it in time to wear it, like, at least once before it starts to get warm again. And I think I will. I forgot, oh my gosh, how long double knitting takes. Like, this little chunk right here, I don't know if you can see that. Ooh, that took me a while. This button band, I don't even want to talk about. This took me so long. Like I said, I think I only have 1 double knit button band in me per year. And so this year I'm already doing 2. I might be maxed out. I don't know. They take so long, which is fine. It's worth it. They're really pretty. So that's that. Also, I have not woven in a single end on this thing, and I was able to knit the entire back panel and the entire front panel without having to join in a new yarn. And so I've only cut where the pattern says to break the yarn, and there are a lot of ends. Like, I forgot. I just forget how, like, drop shoulder designs just have so many ends that you need to cut, which is fine, but that's gonna be it's gonna take me a while to weave all these in, and that's okay. So that is my main work in progress, and it's getting most of my attention right now. But the next work in progress is something that I wasn't really meaning to cast on, but my birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of had a weird day. Like, it was one of those days at work where you just like can't seem to do anything right. And so I was like feeling really sorry for myself, and I got home and I was like, the only thing that can fix this is casting on a new project. So the moral of the story really is, don't go to work on your birthday. Like, my day ended up being fine because my husband made me dinner. Like, it was really cute. But yeah, if you can, don't go to work on your birthday. Like, that's silly. But I was feeling sorry for myself. So I cast on a new project, and this is one that I have been thinking about for a minute, but I'll get into that in just a second. So this is the start of a twist loop vest by Other Loops. And I am knitting this in Gepard Woolia. But if you have an eagle eye, you may have noticed that this is a different color than the cream color. And that is because last year, when I was buying yarn for my Haraboji cardigan, I bought a lot of Gepard Woolia in the color wheat. And I know it's very ridiculous, but online the pictures looked crispy white, okay? Even though the name said wheat, the pictures looked crispy white, and that's what I thought I was gonna get. And it was not. It's a wheat color. So I have a lot of these, and I ordered the cream. I ordered a lot of these too. And so even though I have 6 balls of these, like the cream color, left over from my Augustins number 4, 6 would have been pushing it to get this entire slipover done without having to buy more yarn. And so since I have an overwhelming amount of the wheat colors, I preferred to just cast it on in this, not have to worry about playing yarn chicken, and then I'll find something else to do with those other 6 balls of the cream color. But that being said, the reason that it didn't matter which color I really cast it on with is because I don't want it to stay this color. Like, this is fine, but I don't love the wheat color on me. And so I saw on someone's Ravelry where they made a gorgeous, like, deep gray version of this, and that is exactly what I want to do. So I bought the dye to over dye this eventually, like when I'm finished, and I'm gonna try over dyeing it gray, and I hope that it works out. And if not, then I'll buy some black dye and I'll just go full black with this. Like, I think the cables are simple enough that I think you'll still be able to see them, but if I can get this into like a deep gray color, even a light gray, I think that would be really, really pretty. And yeah, that's what I'm going for. So I did end up I am paused on this for a second because I needed my 4.5mm needles for the other thing that I cast on. But this is going really, really well. I think it's gonna go pretty fast because you're not gonna pick up stitches for the armholes. Like, you just do slip stitches along the side, so it gives like a nice clean finish. And so really, once I knit like the entire body, the only thing that I have to go back and like pick up for would be the neckband. And that's gonna go super fast. So yeah, I'm really loving this. This, and the other thing I'll show you at the very end, I was inspired to learn how to cable without a cable needle, because the most you're ever gonna move with this is 3 stitches. And I was like, if I have to pull out a cable needle for every single time I have to do this, like, I'm probably not gonna finish this, because it's pretty clunky, right? And there are so many video tutorials out there. I found one and it's so easy. Literally all you do is rearrange your stitches and then knit across them like normal. And it's so easy. So that's what I'm doing. And all of the cable rows are on the same row, or like at a similar enough interval that it's really easy to memorize. And yeah, I'm loving it. I think I've got one big cable left to go, and then I'm done with the back panel, and then I'll pick up stitches for the front. So yeah. That is my twist loop vest by Other Loops. Okay, my last like official work in progress is one that I told myself I would wait to cast on until I finished at least one of something, right? But then I was reading my book on my Kindle and I was trying to knit. I was on some of the double knitting on the Lulu Slipover, and I like can't double knit without looking, like I have to look at that, but I wanted to keep reading. But then like the twist loop vest was like just a little tricky enough, like with the ribbing, that I didn't want to mess it up because I have to look at it a lot. And so what I really needed was something plain, something stockinette to knit on while I read on my Kindle. And so I cast on a sweater number 23 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And this is one that I talked about casting on whenever I got this yarn for Christmas. And so I did end up casting on the sweater number 23. But to be honest, I probably should have done a little more research on different patterns that could fit my gauge, because I am off gauge on this. I am knitting this on 4.5mm needles, which is what the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino recommends. This is the color Poppy Blue, by the way, and it is just so stunning. I am so excited about this. I don't know if blue looks good on me, but I don't really care because I love this color. So Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino recommends 4.5mm needles, and so that's what I cast on. The pattern recommends 5mm needles, and so I already had to go up some sizes in the pattern for that. But also, I hope this isn't giving away too much, but I was basically wearing my Ingrid sweater on the day that I cast this on, and I knit my Ingrid sweater in the same Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, but in pearl gray instead. And I just love the fit of the Ingrid sweater. Like, as far as like how far down the drop shoulder goes, how deep the armhole is, I love it. And so what I'm basically doing is taking the kind of construction method and stitch counts of this sweater, but I'm going to do like the row gauge or the row count of the Ingrid sweater to try to achieve that same look. So basically, I'm doing kind of like a mashup of the two patterns. And really, I probably could have done just the Ingrid sweater, but I have only done this type of drop shoulder where you can like see the increases. I've only done this like a couple of times, and so I wasn't super comfortable doing that on my own. So it's been nice following the pattern for that. But all that being said, whatever this is going to end up looking like is not what the sweater number 23 is supposed to look like. I am knitting, I think, the second largest size to get like the drop shoulder width that I want. And then I'm going to knit straight like the Ingrid sweater does. And then I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do on the sleeves. Haven't gotten that far. But anyway, I'm loving this. This has been really nice. This is what I was talking about with the kind of like stiffer yarn versus the really stretchy Gepard Woolia, because like the knitting for Olive like has some give to it, like some stretch, but not nearly as much as the Woolia, and I personally prefer this knitting experience. And yeah, this is so nice. Also, my book's going really well, by the way. I'm reading Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. It's the second book in the Stormlight archives, and I love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's better than the first book, just because you've already like gotten to know all the characters, and so now you're like really rooting for them. But anyway, the book's going great. Knitting on this at the same time as I read that is going great, and I'm having a great time. So I did not mean to cast on 3 different things. Like 3 big whips is a lot for me, but I like having my options. You know, it's fun to knit on all of these at the same time. So that is it as far as actual works in progress go, but I have one like kind of swatch to show you. So essentially, I was knitting on something the other night, and I was just tired. Like everything I'm knitting right now is worsted weight, and I just was tired of worsted weight. I needed to get something tinier on my needles, and so I cast on a gauge swatch. I did not let myself cast on the sweater. I was like, Laura, you have to have some restraint, right? But I let myself cast on the swatch for my Haru sweater by Knits by Summer. I think that's what the designer is called. And this, is what the swatch looks like so far. This is an all over cable sweater, and it is stunning. Okay, I have been wanting to knit this sweater since before the pattern came out. So for well over a year now, I have been planning on knitting this sweater, and I just haven't started, you know, I just haven't done it. But now I'm ready. I think I'm gonna wait until I cast off at least 2 of my works in progress, but I'm gonna cast this on. And you have to cable every other row, and so I'm definitely doing this without a cable needle, but it's few enough stitches that it's fine. It's just going to be a very slow knit. Like based on how slow the swatch is going, this is gonna be a really long-term whip. And I might do like a knitting vlog for this one, just because it is so gorgeous, but I don't know, I haven't decided yet. So anyway, it's gonna take me a very long time. So that is this, and the yarn that I'm using is more Knitting for Olive. I got the Poppy Blue, and then I got the Knitting for Olive Merino and Soft Silk Mohair in Unicorn Purple. These are both Christmas gifts, and so this is what they look like. I mentioned this last time, but the mohair is a slightly more saturated version of the purple, and so it really, like, I don't know if you can see that, it really is the color that shines through, and I love it. I love this purple. Oh, it's so pretty. I'm having a great time. So I let myself cast on the swatch. I haven't quite finished it. I haven't reached 4 inches yet. If I stretch it out, I get 4 inches with the correct stitch count, but you know, it's ribbing and it's cables, so it shrinks in. So I'm gonna finish this and I'm gonna block it. And even if I don't meet gauge, like width-wise, I think I'm still gonna cast on my size because I think I want it to be slightly less oversized than it's designed to be. So I think casting on my size with a tighter gauge should achieve like about the fit that I'm looking for. But anyway, that's that. And I'll cast that on officially at some point later in the future. So that is everything that's on my needles right now. But talking about just a couple of upcoming plans or kind of a few knitting intentions for the year, my main one that I'm really feeling is slipovers. I have one finished slipover that I wear really often. That's my Stockholm Slipover V-neck by PetiteKnit. And I'm going to have the Lulu slipover. I'm going to have the twist loop vest. And I think I'm just going to keep collecting these things. Like, I have more occasions to wear slipovers than I do full-blown sweaters. Because I'm indoors enough during the summer that I can justify wearing some knitwear in the summer. And so that's really, I think, going to be a focus of mine this year. Is I want to try to finish maybe 4 total by the end of the year. I think that'd be a good number. And yeah, I know I'm going to get a lot of wear out of those, so I'm really excited about that. And then honestly, my only other knitting goal for the year, like, I don't really enjoy planning out my entire year worth of knits. Like, even doing a make 9, I kind of keep like a folder in my camera roll of knits that are inspiring me, and I'll like play around with that and like switch things out every now and then. But I don't really like planning super far in advance because things come up, new patterns come out, I change my mind. This like Solene Cardigan was kind of a, I don't know, not impulse cast on, but it was a new pattern and I was really excited about it. And so that's why I cast this on. And I want to leave enough room in my knitting schedule to have some freedom. But that being said, I think my main focus for this year, as far as when I'm going to cast on new projects, is to think about new projects for at least a month before I cast them on. And that's probably too short of a period of time. Like, I probably could go like 2 or 3 months before I cast on something else, but I want to be thinking about it the whole time and whether or not that's actually going to fit in my wardrobe. Because I've actually done that. I tried doing that for most of last year and it was pretty effective. Like, I thought I was in love with some patterns, and so I put it in my camera roll and then I would open it like once a week or something, and then I just kind of lost interest over time before I'd even like cast it on. And so I think that was a really good lesson in how I like to think about knits and how I like to think about my purchases before I buy them. Is I don't know, I like to have time to kind of reflect on it and see if that's something that I would enjoy knitting and that could fit in my wardrobe. So I want to continue that trend for this year. And I think almost everything that I am knitting right now follows that trend. And kind of on that same thread, if you can't tell, I don't have a yarn stash because I don't have impulse control. Clearly, I was so excited about this yarn that I got for Christmas that I almost immediately had to cast on both of them, and I don't really have a yarn stash other than that. I've got a lot of the Woolias that I'm trying to use up in some capacity, but they weren't really like a great fit for me. But I'm just trying to use them up. Like, I don't like yarn to just sit around. So that's another part of why I need to think about my projects for a while, is because I know as soon as the yarn gets to me and I can hold it, I'm gonna want to cast on immediately. So I think it'll be good for me to think about that for a while. And so, yeah, that's it. Those are pretty much my only 2 knitting intentions for the year. And I think by setting the bar really low, I will feel really accomplished at the end of the year with what I knit. So yeah, that is all that I have for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you've had a great February so far. You're staying warm and, you know, cozying up with some good knits this month. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.